From an overpass in North Carolina that shredded this box truck like a tin can, and a car thief in Minnesota who was dragging over 100 feet of chain link fence, to a moped rider who didn't notice this giant sinkhole in the middle of the street, and a truck driver in Poland who thought he could beat an oncoming train. Here are the most unbelievable traffic camera moments caught on camera. Brooklyn Park, Minnesota is a large city on the west bank of the Mississippi River. It's home to over 80,000 people, including one truck thief who got caught towing a little more than he bargained for. A 911 call came in around 9:55 a.m. on November 9th of 2021. The caller said someone had just stolen their construction trailer. The suspect allegedly hitched it to the back of a blue Ford F-250 and took off. Officers found the stolen trailer and the truck in a parking lot off Zane Avenue. When they approached, the driver stepped on the gas and sped away. For everyone's safety, the police chose not to chase him. Meanwhile, the driver careened through the parking lot, over a lawn, and down into a ditch. They smashed through a chain link fence and tried to escape down Highway 610. At this point, the stolen trailer came loose and fell off, but the driver found himself towing something else. He had over 200 feet of fence dragging like a whip behind his car. Traffic cameras captured the wild pursuit and the mayhem that ensued. The fence looks like a giant snake dragging behind his car. Police are wise to stay back, as they don't want to risk getting tangled in this guy's mess. They assume the safest way to stop him is to slow him down with spike strips. But that plan doesn't work too well. Up ahead, you can see the officers on the corner waiting to deploy the spikes. The truck speeds through, and the fence bounces like a whip against the cars. The officer standing there is lucky his SUV took the brunt of the damage. Another camera picks the suspect up shortly before he avoids the strips. Keep your eye on the red car in the far left lane. It's about to be in for a world of hurt. The camera turns as the red car moves, hoping to catch the truck driver as he speeds by. It's at this point that he loses the fence, but then the camera starts shaking violently. When it pans down, we see that the red car has crashed into the camera pole. Officers eventually abandoned the chase to help the driver. Unfortunately, the 75-year-old man did not survive the accident. We think the fence grabbed the back of his car and whipped it with such force that it wrapped around the light pole. As far as we can tell, police in Brooklyn Park are still looking for the fleeing driver. October 27th of 2021. A student pilot and their instructor had just taken off from the Buttonville Municipal Airport in Markham, Ontario, Canada. They thought their plane was in tip-top shape, but then something went wrong mid-flight. The plane experienced mechanical failure after switching from its left fuel tank to its right. The duo radioed into air traffic control, who told them to turn around. However, the airport was too far away, and the pilots were quickly losing altitude. They had no choice but to make an emergency landing. Thankfully, highways make decent landing strips. You just have to avoid all the cars. Watch as the plane approaches from behind the overhead sign. Our pilot had to time this perfectly, or else they'd risk losing the tail, or worse. Thankfully, he rolls the plane under the sign and as close as possible to the shoulder. It eventually comes to a stop with the tail still in frame. According to police, they landed on a 10-lane stretch of Highway 407, which typically takes drivers around Toronto instead of through it. Their plane was a 1970s Pipe Warrior PA-28, which had just undergone a complete maintenance inspection. As far as they knew, their plane had a clean bill of health. Either someone dropped the ball during the inspection, or these two have terrible luck. A similar scene unfolded on December 3rd of 2020, when another small plane had to make an emergency landing in Minnesota. This time, it didn't go as smoothly. Pilot Craig Gifford and his passenger experienced total engine failure above Interstate 35 West in Minneapolis. Unfortunately, he clipped a white SUV when the plane touched down, causing both vehicles to crash. Thankfully, nobody was hurt in either vehicle. In fact, Craig and his passenger climbed into the SUV for warmth while they waited for help to arrive. They were overly apologetic, and the woman driving was just glad everyone was okay. The Norfolk Southern Gregson Street overpass in Durham, North Carolina goes by many names. Some call it 11'8" due to its low clearance. Others call it the can opener, as it's famous for making inattentive truck drivers look like fools. So many accidents have occurred at this bridge that it inspired nearby office worker Jürgen Henn to set up cameras and start an official 11'8" website. Since 2008, he has recorded over 100 crashes. One of the best occurred on September 18th of 2017. A yellow Penske truck thought that they were short enough to clear the bridge. Instead, the driver showed us why they call it the can opener. See the big sign that says "Overheight must turn"? It only comes on when the sensor detects an overheight truck approaching. Our driver thought the sign was talking to the guy behind him. This is what 11'8" fans call a clean tear. It's like someone peeling back the lid on a can of tuna. From the side angle, you can tell the driver wasn't even close. It's funny how the white car just keeps going. It's probably not the first time they've seen someone crash into the bridge. That overheight sign was installed in May of 2016 to prevent further crashes. Let's just say it didn't work, as the next truck crashed 2 months later in July. They continued crashing until October of 2019, when the city spent $500,000 to raise the bridge by 8 inches. That still didn't help, as 12'4" is still significantly lower than the standard height of 14 to 16 feet, depending on the road. Russia is no stranger to wild caught-on-camera traffic moments. Consider this incident from Perm, a large city on the banks of the Kama River. All was going fine until one of the public trams decided to play bumper cars. It began when the driver of tram route number 8 pulled into one of their many stops. They noticed something was wrong with the brakes, but couldn't fix it on the scene. So, instead of cutting the engine and getting someone to drag the train, they decided to keep going. Unfortunately, the next stop was downhill. You can only imagine what happened next. Keep your eye on the top of the hill. There is a train coming toward us, but that's not the one we're worried about. The runaway tram rear-ends the other just as someone crosses the street. Thankfully, they avoided catastrophe by the skin of their teeth. That first train careens into a church while the other starts screaming downhill. Nobody has any idea that something is horribly wrong as they continue about their business and don't look while crossing the tracks. The tram gets closer and closer. An SUV nearly avoids a collision, and then, bang! Someone finally T-bones the train. They hit with such force that their car bounces and does a 360 while the tram derails and slides off camera. Those who crashed were treated for various injuries later on. Thankfully, none were life-threatening. As for the tram itself, the conductor was wise enough to let everyone off when they noticed the brake trouble. If only they were smart enough to leave the broken train at the station. Speaking of dumb decisions, this box truck driver in Piastów, Poland, thought he could beat the rail crossing signal. Instead, he wound up sandwiched between the crossing arms. Now, he was on a collision course with an oncoming train. The lights start flashing. The arms come down. Literally everything says, "Stop, there's a train coming." Either our driver was so oblivious that he missed all the signals, or he thought he could beat the train. He ends up stuck between the arms, at which point he should have kept going and broken through. Instead, he tries going around, only to get his truck stuck in the grass. Moments later, the train comes through, and the inevitable happens. The reverse angle shows that it could have been much worse. The train only dragged the truck a few feet, and the impact didn't look that harsh. From what we can gather, our driver walked away without injury. We cannot say the same about his truck, though. April 12th of 2022 was a windy day in southern Minnesota. Department of Transportation cameras were rolling along I-35 when powerful gusts of wind blew over at least 9 tractor trailers. One of those trailer flips was caught in real time. The driver of an 18-wheeler could feel his cabin swaying and decided it was safest to pull over. You can tell how strong the wind is by the shaking camera and the grass on the side of the highway. Cars are extremely cautious as they drive around the truck, with some deciding to pull over behind the 18-wheeler just to see what happens. That's when another gust comes and throws the truck off balance. One tiny tip brought the whole thing tumbling over. That's when the camera spins around and the plot thickens. This was the 4th truck to blow over due to strong winds. Our driver likely pulled over after seeing his buddies up ahead and realizing it was too dangerous to be on the open road. The lead truck clearly felt differently. It looks like they were in the left lane when their cabin flipped. Now they're blocking both lanes, and it looks like the median sinks too much for some of those cars to drive down and around. Thankfully, the wind dies down after another minute or so. It's a good thing too, because all those trucks sitting in traffic would have wound up on their sides. When we pan back to our original truck, we see that one more met the same fate. According to reports, at least 9 trailers tipped over that day. Luckily, nobody was injured, but many were stuck in traffic for hours while police worked to clear the scene. Zibo, China is a prefecture-level city in Shandong province. It's home to about 5 million people and a truck driver who grossly underestimated his clearance height. It was August 9th of 2015. Traffic was moving steadily across the Zihe Bridge in Zibo. That's when a dump truck tried to cross and was stopped immediately by the overhead barrier. It looks like clearance on this bridge is only 2.9 meters, or just over 9.5 feet. Cars and small vans can pass without issues. It's the large trucks that have to find an alternate route. Just as a lone cyclist heads over the bridge, a dump truck appears and crashes into the barrier. It hits with such force that it bends the metal in half and throws it over the road. The cyclist stops after seeing his life flash before his eyes. He's lucky the metal didn't fall and hit him. According to reports, the truck driver fled the scene, only to be caught after the cyclist reported the incident to police. They arrested the driver, though we're not sure what happened next. Sanchez Street is a famous dead-end road in San Francisco, California. You can stand at the edge and see the entire city. Then, when you're done, you can walk down the Sanchez Street steps, which are adorned with murals and other artistic graffiti. On July 22nd of 2023, street cameras on both ends of the Sanchez steps were rolling when a car full of alleged thieves came screaming down the street. They missed the giant dead-end sign and went for a joyride over the barricade.
Call 911 now!
My dad, you got hurt, Mark! Everybody know. We've already got more. I'm sorry. I feel like I get the hurt. I'm sorry.
Call 911.
I'm sorry. I love you so much.
Now, most people don't flee the scene of a major accident unless they have something to hide. As the story goes, the occupants of this car had just carjacked a man 1 block over on Church Street. They, however, got stuck in traffic while trying to flee and wound up speeding down Sanchez Road. According to a witness, one of the occupants said, "We gotta get out of here. They'll be here soon. We've got 3 minutes." We're assuming "they'll be here soon" refers to the police. Others said they found alcohol and a gun in the vehicle after all 4 suspects fled on foot. It's unclear if any of the suspects have ever been caught. Those living in the northern United States know how slippery the roads can get in the winter. They try their best to take things easy, but ice has a way of striking when you least expect it. It was Valentine's Day of 2022. Lovers were out and about on Minnesota's icy highways when one of them lost control and crashed into the concrete barrier. They inadvertently created a chain reaction, leading to what some called the Valentines Day Massacre Part 2. The massacre began when an SUV lost control after speeding around the bend. They slid across 2 lanes and smashed into the concrete barrier. Their car finally stops after about 100 feet. Unfortunately, they're now parked perpendicular to the road. A semi-truck cruises by, and another car narrowly avoids a crash. That's when the 4th driver in line gets speed wobbles, spins out, and crashes into the SUV. To add insult to injury, they also block another traffic lane. A 3rd victim tries to stop, but it's way too late. By then, the other drivers had abandoned their cars and taken refuge on the median. They welcome one more to the party and watch as cars narrowly avoid crashing into the pile. The fourth victim arrives moments later. By now, everyone's become good friends. You can see the others pulling the fourth driver onto the median for safety. Driver 5 almost drifts around the pile, but winds up sideswiping the blue SUV and almost blocking the rightmost lane. Thankfully, they were able to move and park their car behind the pile. Police eventually arrived and helped clear the pileup. We don't believe anyone was severely injured, as it looks like they're all just hanging out on the raised median. Hopefully, nobody missed their Valentine's dinner reservations. Lakeville, Minnesota is the largest city in Dakota County. It's home to about 70,000 people living roughly 20 miles outside of downtown Minneapolis. One of them thought it was a good idea to run from the police after an officer pulled them over on the side of I-35. It was just before 2 p.m. on April 25th of 2023. A highway patrol officer had just stopped a 29-year-old man for what was likely a routine traffic violation. But things escalated when our officer found a handgun and marijuana inside the car. He tried arresting the driver, which led to a brief struggle on the side of the highway. That's when the highway cameras began rolling. They captured the suspect speeding off in his car while police remained hot on his tail. The video opens with our suspect northbound on I-35. According to reports, he shrugged off a taser before returning to his car. Some of that electricity may still be coursing through his body. The suspect weaves between cars without a care in the world for anybody's safety. By now, he's traveled over 2 miles based on the markings from the highway cameras. A third camera picks him up as he bobs between trucks and exits the highway. He burns up the ramp and blows clean through an intersection. You can tell his light was red based on this still frame. He's lucky nobody else was crossing when he arrived. Our fourth and final highway camera captures the driver as he speeds toward a roundabout. He recklessly drives on the wrong side of the road, perhaps trying to take a wide turn and continue east up the other road. Instead, he loses control, skips the curb, and crashes through a fence. But this chase isn't over. Not just yet. The suspect gets out, grabs his bag, and takes off on foot. For a moment, our camera loses him under the bridge. Then, seconds later, a state trooper tackles him like a middle linebacker. The suspect was arrested, though it's unclear what police charged him with. If we had to guess, it had something to do with possession, fleeing, and endangering the public. Thankfully, nobody got hurt when this moron tried to outrun Minnesota State Police. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami in Japan will forever be remembered as one of the worst natural disasters in human history. We've seen hundreds of pictures and videos showing the aftermath of that day. Few of them show it happening in real time, as most people were running in the opposite direction. 3 traffic cameras along the coast in Iwate, Japan, captured the tsunami as it came ashore. Watch how quickly things go from bad to catastrophic. We begin on what looks like a typical day in Japan. The scary part is that most people have no idea what's happening. Then, we pan right to see a massive wall of water racing ashore. It levels buildings and sweeps cars away like toys. We pan back to see the calm street we left only seconds before is now completely underwater. At one point, a boat passes under a bridge and continues down the flooded road. At 9.1 on the Richter scale, the March 11th earthquake was the strongest to ever hit Japan and the third most powerful in the world since the turn of the 20th century. The ensuing tsunami wave grew to 130 feet tall, which explains how it washed over this mainland bridge so easily. The whole area is unrecognizable after the water passes. This final clip shows locals escaping the wave in real time. Some drivers narrowly escape, while others have to make 3-point turns and head back the way they came. As you can imagine, many were stuck in their cars when all that water rushed through. Sadly, 18,000 people perished in the water that day. The tsunami also led to one of the worst nuclear disasters in human history, when water knocked out power to 3 reactors at the Fukushima power plant. Sinkholes are all too common in China. The wet, humid weather paired with subpar road conditions means that they can open anywhere at any time. This Chinese scooter driver learned that lesson the hard way on August 20th of 2017. What began as a casual ride ended with him several feet underground. You can already see the ground beginning to dip. Then it collapses, nearly taking the entire crosswalk with it. Moments later, a man arrives on his scooter and tries his best to stop. Instead, he falls in like a cartoon. Police arrive later and tape off the sinkhole. The grainy footage makes it hard to tell if the scooter driver we see here is the same man who fell into the hole. Sometimes, officials can catch these sinkholes before they open, like this hero cop in Hangzhou, China, a not-so-small city of 12 million people in Zhejiang province. Our traffic cop notices the sinkhole moments before several cars enter the intersection. He'll never stop them all, so he frantically gathers cones to reroute traffic. Somehow, he blocks off the area before the sinkhole collapses. The sheer size of it comes into perspective when the camera pulls back. Imagine being stuck in that traffic jam, not knowing that the road had collapsed up ahead. Someone you know and love is probably a bad driver. That someone may even be you. If it is, just know that you can't be as bad as this 63-year-old woman from Argentina. It was June 7th of 2023. Grandma had just arrived for her driving test. All she had to do was drive this blue SUV around the course without crashing. Apparently, that was asking too much. Things seem to be going okay as she turns around the first bend. But then, she cuts it a little too hard and jumps the curb. Now, she's panicking. Things are going horrible. She goes too quickly over the speed bump and drives over the curb on the left side. Now let's see if she at least stops at the stop sign. Nope. She jumps another curb, nearly putting her whole car on the grass. Then, instead of hitting the brakes, she guns it and smashes into a light pole. The SUV flips and almost rolls onto its roof. According to reports, Grandma was taken to the hospital and treated for minor injuries. It doesn't sound like there was anybody else inside the car. An instructor would have likely hit their brakes and stopped the test long before she flipped the SUV. It's unclear what happened next, but we can safely assume she did not get her license. The Moscow Ring Road is a 68-mile highway encircling Russia's capital city. These roads are called beltlines, beltways, or loops in the United States. Some famous examples from around the world include the London M25 and the Autostrada A90 around Rome. These highways are always hectic, as traffic constantly flows in and out of these major cities. That's why a minor accident can have massive consequences, like this multi-car pileup on the Moscow Ring Road in 2022. Watch how a single loose tire backs the whole thing up for miles. We open on a lonely tire rolling across multiple lanes. It forces an SUV to stop in the middle of the road. A taxi pulls up behind them, and then bam! Another taxi driver comes out of nowhere and rear-ends his fellow cabbie. The offending cab driver gets out and stretches his arm in pain. That's when both men turn to see three giant trucks careening toward them. They run in opposite directions as a mass of twisted metal crashes into their cabs and pushes them a few dozen feet. The one cabbie barely outruns the pileup. It's unclear how the dump truck and the box truck flipped over. We're guessing they tried to stop, lost control, and flipped off camera. Somehow, a man climbs out from his windshield while several others run for safety. Moments later, everyone gathers back to help someone out of the flipped box truck. By some miracle, nobody was seriously injured during the accident. They all walked away, wondering how a single loose tire could have caused all this. July of 2013 was a wet month in Yan'an, China. Torrential rain impacted nearly 1 million people, with several landslides and flash floods washing away their cars and property. 4 more locals were added to the tally on July 13th. They were out for a drive on one of China's many mountainous roads. Then, without warning, the mountain tried to eat their car. The relentless mudslide covers their vehicle in seconds. It keeps piling on as our traffic camera starts shaking. You might think a major earthquake was happening if you didn't know any better. 2 men scramble from the car and run to safety when the landslide is over. A third follows them but takes a nasty spill before joining his friends. Once all 3 are satisfied that the danger is past, they return to the car and rescue their 4th passenger. Thankfully, all 4 made it out okay, but we can't say the same for their car. Hopefully, the driver had decent mudslide insurance. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another just like it, be sure to click the link on screen now. With that, thanks for watching and be sure to tune in next time.